Before America was a country, it was a crime scene. Genocide built it, enslavement funded it, and to this day, the kidnappings and murders haven't stopped, especially if you're black, brown, native, queer, poor, or any mix of the above. We're told mass murder is a thing of the past, but look closely and you'll see the system just changed its methods. It still disposes of the same people quietly, with debt, poverty, addiction, and violence. And on the reservations of this country, the silence is often louder than the gunshots. From coast to coast, Native women are being murdered and disappeared at rates that should set the country on fire, but most people don't even know it's happening. In the U.S., women are killed at a rate of 2.5 per 100,000. Already 2.5 too many. But for Native women, that number jumps to 10 to 13.5 per 100,000. That's up to 5 times higher, and in some areas, it's even worse. The number of missing Native women and girls is staggering, underreported, ignored, and often erased. Someday I'll do a full breakdown of this crisis on my Conscience 616 channel. But today, I want to tell you about one woman, one mother, one daughter, one sister, one name among thousands that deserves to have her story told and justice served.
No definitive statistics.
The MOU was signed in Whitehorse on Tuesday. The agreement depends to strengthen cross-border collaboration on the American and Indigenous people issue and formalizes commitments on information sharing, improvements to public safety, and healing. It also aligns with McConn's MMIWG 2S2S+ strategy.
President Trump signed it into law in his first term with the White House.
Her name was Susan Renee Poupart. Most people called her Suzie. Born November 12, 1960, and raised on the Lac du Flambeau reservation in Vilas County, Wisconsin, Suzie was the eldest of 3 siblings and the proud mother of 2 kids, a 9-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter, when her life was stolen. Suzie worked for tribal social services, but her care for others went far beyond her job. She volunteered her time tutoring local kids and helping elders in the community. She was grounded in both her Ojibwe and Christian faith, starting each day with a quiet prayer. Friends say she was the kind of person who always showed up with a warm smile and love. She was strong. She deserved a long life, and someone out there knows what happened to her. There's no confirmed time of death, but evidence suggests she was killed in the early morning hours of May 20, 1990, shortly after leaving a party in Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin. On May 19, 1990, Suzie was living and working on the reservation. Her kids were spending the weekend at her sister's house, and she had the night off, a rare break for someone who worked hard and gave so much of herself to others. She decided to enjoy a night out with friends. That night, she attended a house party on Makwa Trail, a going-away party for someone heading off to the military. The atmosphere was relaxed, and most of the guests knew each other from the reservation. Around 4 a.m. on May 20th, witnesses reported seeing Suzie get into a Buick with 2 men. Accounts differ on whether she went willingly. Some witnesses claim she was being forced into the car and didn't want to go. Others said she left willingly but was heavily intoxicated. What all witnesses agreed on was the identity of the 2 men, Robert Rob Elm and Joseph Joe Cobb. Both were younger tribal members who told people they were taking Suzie home. But that story didn't match their actions. Witnesses saw them drive in the opposite direction of her home. Elm and Cobb later told police that they had intended to give her a ride, but an argument broke out and Suzie demanded to be let out of the car. They claimed they dropped her off near the old elementary school. She was never seen alive again. Suzie's family reported her missing 2 days later, on May 22, 1990. Search efforts began immediately. Volunteers and police searched on foot, and neighboring states sent in search dogs, but there was no sign of her. That is until 6 months later, on November 22, 1990, 2 hunters found her remains in an area well known to both Elm and Cobb, both avid hunters. Robert Elm was 18 at the time, and Joseph Cobb was 19. They had grown up in the same community as Suzie, a small, close-knit place where almost everyone knows each other. From available reports, it's likely they knew Suzie before that night. Both have a history of harming women. Not long after Suzie's remains were found, both Elm and Cobb left the reservation. I'll get into more about that later. The third suspect is Francis Fritz Schumann, a friend of both Cobb and Elm. Witnesses later identified him as being with them that night, although exactly when he joined the group is unclear. Most early reports say Suzie left with just Cobb and Elm. Fritz is currently serving a prison sentence for unrelated charges, including assault. Before I move on, I want to mention the podcast The Deck. They did a great episode on Suzie's case. It's well organized and lays everything out in a way that's easy to follow. I highly recommend checking it out. Most accounts agree that Suzie left the party very intoxicated with Elm and Cobb. Fritz's name didn't come up until later, when some witnesses claimed he left around the same time and stayed with them throughout the night of the party. When Suzie didn't return home, her family and friends began searching immediately on May 20th. The official search ramped up in the days after. Cobb, Elm, Fritz, and several others from the party were questioned, but there was a bigger problem. Many people on reservations don't trust police, especially outside law enforcement. And at that time, the reservation didn't have its own police force, so outside agencies handled the investigation. Given the government's long history of failing Native communities, mistrust runs deep. And when crimes happen, witnesses are often threatened or intimidated into silence. That's exactly what happened here. People talked, but none were willing to testify. Six months after Suzie vanished, her body was found, but not where anyone expected. It was in the opposite direction of her house, deep in a remote logging area of the Chequamegon Nicolet National Forest in Price County, Wisconsin. 2 hunters spotted a bright jacket hanging from a tree. Nearby, they found Suzie's purse and tribal ID. Under a log, they found a jawbone.
So we recovered about a shoebox full of small bones, like finger bones, toe bones, but nothing like an arm or a leg, nothing big. The jawbone was probably the biggest piece of evidence that we found.
That was Sheriff Joe Fath. And as you just heard, most of Suzie's remains were never recovered.
What we buried was the few bones that were left. They didn't show us when we were kids, but as I got into my late 20s, they showed us a picture of what was in the casket. It was a Ziploc bag with a few bones and a dress. That's what was in there. It all fit in a Ziploc. I remember seeing it laid out, and that's what I was told. It could all fit in a Ziploc bag, and that's what was left.
Police zeroed in quickly on the 3 primary suspects, but there was no confession, and according to Sheriff Joe Fath, not enough evidence to bring charges. Not long after, all 3 suspects left the reservation.
So when we found out that they were all trying to leave the reservation, especially Robert and Joe, I told them, you were the last 2 people to see Suzie. We're focusing on you. You guys are right now our main suspects. So they agreed to take a polygraph. Cobb's was inconclusive. He hemmed and hawed. It took us a long time to get a polygraph scheduled with him, and he just didn't want to do it. He did finally take it, and it was inconclusive. Robert came back as not being truthful, and I gave him a ride back to the reservation after the examination and his post-test interview. I was hoping that he might tell me where she was, but that didn't happen. He enlisted in the Navy and left for boot camp. The next time I talked to him was after we discovered her body.
In the early 90s, forensic science was improving, but still had its limits. Then came what seemed like a break. During the original investigation, police collected deer hair from where Suzie's body was found. And just a few months after she went missing, but a few months before she was found, Rob was involved in a car accident on the same road where her body was eventually found. He was speeding down the mountain and hit another vehicle. Investigators took the opportunity to vacuum his trunk and they found deer hair in there too. Years later, with better technology available, investigators sent the evidence to a specialized forensic lab in Mississippi. Before testing could happen, disaster struck. A massive storm hit the area where the evidence was stored. The facility was flooded. The evidence was destroyed.
So we took the deer hair from the scene and sent it to an independent lab down in Mississippi. And we sent the vacuumings of the deer hair from the trunk of the car. And we wanted to do analysis, DNA, identify the deer hair to see if we could connect deer hair from the crime scene to deer hair in the trunk. I remember back then it was very costly to do that with that independent lab. I mean, we were really hoping it could have been a big break for us in this investigation. And unfortunately for us, I don't remember which hurricane it was. There was a hurricane that came in and destroyed the lab. It flooded all of our evidence that we sent to them. So that was never done because the evidence that we sent to them was destroyed.
It was a devastating blow, but Sheriff Fath didn't give up that easy.
Well, today 4 people took the stand and testified in the John Doe hearing of Susan Poupart's murder.
People they wanted to hear from in court today. 17 years ago, Susan Poupart was murdered. The 29-year-old Lac du Flambeau mother disappeared after going to a house party. Her remains were found 6 months later in a wooded area of Price County. Now today, 4 people testified in the John Doe hearing.
They took her to the woods to have sex with her and then beat her to death. Is that correct?
Homicide cases.
Vilas County Chief Deputy Joe Fath told the court the 3 people police believe are connected to Poupart's death are Joe Cobb, Robert Elm, and Francis Fritz Schumann. Fath says records show the 3 got in the car with her the night she disappeared. Cobb did not show up in court today. The other 2 did take the stand, but Robert Elm did not have a lawyer, so the judge stopped his questioning. When Schumann testified, he invoked his Fifth Amendment rights.
Told him that you returned to the party after that had occurred and had blood on your clothes. Isn't that correct? Judge, this time I don't have any other further questions for this witness.
Today's John Doe investigation is used to determine whether criminal charges should be filed in the case. Court was scheduled to continue tomorrow, but will reconvene in September. This will give police 2 months to track down Joe Cobb. Chief Deputy Joe Fath urges anyone with any information to come forward in this case.
There were 3 separate John Doe hearings in this case, including one in 2007, 17 years after Suzie was last seen alive. A John Doe hearing is a closed-door judicial investigation where a judge questions witnesses under oath to determine if a crime was committed and who might be responsible. Sheriff Fath, the Vilas County Sheriff's Office, the DA, and Lac du Flambeau Tribal Police, formed since Suzie's murder, attended, hoping witnesses would finally talk, but none came forward. The suspects were questioned in these 3 hearings. Robert Elm invoked the Fifth Amendment repeatedly. Joseph Cobb, once tracked down, refused to answer without a lawyer. Questioning was ended. And Francis Fritz Schumann answered some questions until his attorney objected on self-incrimination grounds, then invoked the Fifth. Nothing usable came from any of the hearings, at least nothing the public has been told. Francis Fritz Schumann is in prison for an unrelated crime. He has never been charged in connection with Suzie's murder. Joseph Cobb works on the Lac du Flambeau reservation, reportedly in the Tribal Economics Support Office. And Robert Elm holds a high-level position with LDF Construction, Lac du Flambeau Business Development Corporation. The company's own website lists him as president, with contact information. So I called him.
You have reached the message box of 171.
1
No
5.
answer. Okay, hold on. I got his cell phone here. Let's see.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hello, sir. My name is Dalton. I'm researching the 1990 death of Susan Poupart, and I was hoping that you would be able to clear up a few things for me. You can give me a call back at 971.
Nothing there. At least for now. I'll email him next.
He didn't answer his business or cell phone. I left a message and sent an email. If I get a response, I'll update you.
He told me that my aunt really wasn't my mom and to quit calling her mom, and he told me what happened to my mom, and it was hard for a 5-year-old to try to understand what he meant, but I knew it was serious because he was so upset about it. When I first heard their names, I was really young, and then I got older and realized who they were, and that's when the people started pointing them out to me, saying, that's one of the guys right there, that's one of the guys right there. They're the main suspects. They've been the main suspects since day one.
I remember my grandma always telling me there's certain places or people I couldn't go around. I see them today. I see him going to work in the morning. I see him every single day.
The kind of strength that it would take to live in that reality where you see your mother's killers every single day of your life and to have the strength not to lash out or take revenge or do something. That's a kind of strength I can't imagine. This case is still active. When the first round of evidence was tested years ago, investigators kept some back. And in 2024, with funding from the Season of Justice Foundation, they sent it for advanced DNA testing using new vacuum collection techniques designed to capture even microscopic traces of genetic material. True crime YouTuber Ron Carlson, creator of Faces of the Forgotten, donated $10,000 to help pay for it.
I want to see the killers caught.
In July, while touring the cemetery where Susan is buried,
Okay, her grave is right over here.
he made this promise.
I will pledge $10,000 cash for DNA testing and familial genealogy. I really wanted to see if that could just drive it a little more and help, because time's ticking.
As of April of 2025, the crime lab is processing the results. Sheriff Fath, now head of the department, and current investigator Sergeant Chad Remick are waiting. These results could identify a suspect, or clear them. Either way, it could finally bring answers. In May of 2025, the Lac du Flambeau Tribal Governing Board announced a $25,000 reward for credible information leading to an arrest and conviction. The message is clear. This case is not closed. The silence can still be broken, and justice for Suzie is still possible. If you want to help make this channel better and help bring attention to causes that help all of us, please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to check out my other channels listed on screen.
No.